Bye. What are you trying to tell me?
That's
Your medicine's still in your mouth?
still in my mouth. I haven't swallowed it yet.
You never wish to see.
Spit it out. Let me get so I can give you another.
Start all over.
Is it on your teeth?
Okay, this is October 29th, 1987. My name is Joe Todd, and this is an interview with Miss Mary Alberta Coyle in Dewey, Oklahoma. Miss Coyle,
Yes.
where were you born?
I was born in Holden, Missouri,
Oh.
1900.
What month and day?
What?
What month and day?
March the 3rd, I thought I said. March the 3rd, 1900.
And that's Holden, Missouri?
Holden, H-O-L-D-E-N.
Okay. Who is your father?
Phillip Coyle.
And your mother?
Louise Howell.
Where were your parents from?
Mother was from Missouri, therefore we all grew up. And I think Nebraska, I'm not sure about that.
What type of work did your father do?
He was a farmer.
As a small girl, what chores did you do in the farm?
Of course, I learned, got the cows in for the milk, and I carried in chips and wood and cobs and you name it, and I did it. I did everything but milk the cows. I couldn't do that.
Did you do the laundry?
Oh no, not till I was a big girl. Mother did that.
Mm-hmm. When you did do the laundry, how'd you do it?
What?
How did you do the laundry when you were big enough?
Rose from the world.
Tell me how you did the laundry from how'd you heat the water?
After we got the water,
Yeah, tell me how, from the time you drew the water from the well, what'd you do?
we didn't draw the water from the well. We carried it from the creek and put it on the stove to get hot, to wash the clothes in, put them in a big boiler and boil them and rinse them and
How far was the creek?
what?
How far was the creek?
About a quarter of a mile. I hoed corn, and stripped cane, and everything.
Did you have cotton?
No, we didn't
No
raise
cotton.
back in Missouri.
Okay. Did you, what type of soap did you use?
Oh, Mother made her own Lysol.
Did you help her?
No.
No. Do you know how she made soap?
No, really I don't know.
Mhm.
She had a big old kettle there. She cooked it in, and she took the what does she call it? Water from the ashes, just and took the brine off of that, and I don't know how. After all, I was 87. Can't remember all those things.
Could you tell me if either one of your grandfathers was in the Civil War?
My great-grandfather was, great-grandfather Coyle.
Ever hear any stories about him in the war?
No. Well, I'll tell you, I have a couple of cousins and a niece that's a genealogist, and they worked me to death on that, so really, that's all I know.
Mm-hmm. Where did you start to school?
Well, in Missouri, there in Holden, in a little country school 5 miles from where we lived. The country school, one teacher, and I went there for I think the 3rd grade, and then the older sisters was ready to go into high school, so we moved into town.
What was the name of that school?
Lincoln.
Lincoln? Did you have to walk to school or did you ride?
Well, if it was bad, I mean, pretty, we could cut across the field, and it's just 2 miles and a half. But if it was bad, my daddy would take us. A lot of times he'd go ahead of us, because we had really had snow. He'd go ahead of us and break the snow, and take us to school that way. And then if it was raining and bad and all that, we'd go around 5 miles to get to the schoolhouse.
How many students in the school?
How many what?
How many students were in that school?
About 30. Something like that.
How did the one teacher handle all the different grades in one
Well,
room?
she'd have first grade to recite their lesson, and then their second grade. And so, so many in the morning and so many in the afternoon.
While one grade was reciting, what were the other grades doing?
They were studying their lessons or else listening to us recite.
Could you tell me how you celebrated Christmas in those years?
Well, we didn't know much about Christmas, truly, until I was a big kid. At Christmas time, we had a big Christmas tree in the school building, see. All decorated with popcorn and little rings and things like that we made. And then we would have box suppers and pie suppers and things like that to make the money to buy our treats with.
Mm-hmm. What type of toys did you receive?
What type of what?
What type of toys did you receive for Christmas? Toys and games for Christmas? What did you receive as gifts?
That's about all we got was our treats. Uh-huh. Yeah. We would exchange gifts, I'd get your name and I'd give you something. But it's just little old. Them days you could spend a nickel and get a nice prize.
Tell me about some of the meals that your mother fixed.
Well, she fixed good meals. We'd have usually sausage and eggs and oatmeal or some kind of cereal for breakfast. Then at noon we'd always have potatoes, and our meat sometimes would be boiled roast or something like that. And then in the evening, maybe cornbread and milk or something like that.
How did the women control the heat in the wood? How did women control the heat in the wood-burning stove when you were cooking? The old wood-burning stove that you cooked on? How did you control the heat?
Well, we just had to let it get hot. If it got too hot, then we pulled down the damper so it wouldn't be so hot.
What was your favorite meal your mother fixed?
Gosh, I don't know. I think noon meal. Of course, we took our lunch to school in the wintertime. We'd have fried chicken and
What type of games did you play at school?
oh, it was all outdoors. Played Run Sheep Run and Black Man and Addy Over and some of the boys would play baseball and we didn't know what basketball was till we moved to town. And girls sometimes we played Drop the Handkerchief.
How'd you play Run Sheep Run?
Oh well, I've almost forgot. But anyway, we would all get out in the yard, and somebody would go and hide, and then we had to run and find them, Run Sheep Run. And they would keep a hollering when we get near her, Run Sheep Run, so she'd go and hide somewhere else.
Why did the family move to Oklahoma?
When?
When and why?
Well, we moved to Oklahoma. We came to Chitopa, Kansas first and stayed there a year. Then we moved on over here in 1913. I mean, over Pryor, Oklahoma. That's where I got my higher up education. And then 1926 we came to Bartlesville. But we moved here to Oklahoma mostly because my daddy had a sister at Pryor, and we wanted to get near her.
How large was the town of Pryor in 1913?
How long's what?
How large was Pryor in 1913?
Oh, I don't know, just a little town. I don't remember the population. I should little girl.
Did you ever hear of a man named Nathaniel Pryor?
Yes, I have.
What'd you hear about him?
I don't remember. Just Nathaniel Pryor. Why, did you know it?
Well, he was the man they named Pryor. They named Pryor after him.
Yeah, now I remember. Yeah.
And he was a scout. He was with Lewis and Clark when they went to the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah,
And I think he settled in that area, so they named the town after him.
probably.
What type of house did you live in Pryor?
In Pryor?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, when we moved to Pryor, we lived on a farm, and we lived in a little old four-room bungalow. It was, because the older children was away from home then. And then my daddy got sick and we had to move into Pryor. And again, we lived in a little, I think there was 5 rooms in that place. It was a nice place. It's where I went to school. We lived about 3 blocks from school over there at Pryor.
Did you have indoor plumbing at that house? No.
They have now, though.
What year did you graduate from high school?
I didn't really graduate. It would have been 1918. Should have gone on. But I got sick and I didn't finish.
Were there any activities in school to support the war effort, World War I?
How we got the money to support it?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, for one thing, the basketball team, for one thing, would go different places and play against the other team, you know. And, of course, they charged admission for that. Well, then we got the money from that and all just numerous things.
Do you remember Armistice Day? The day the war ended?
Yes, I sure do.
What happened that day?
What happened? Oh, I was living in Pryor on Armistice Day, and my daddy was real sick on that day. And we had called my brother. He was in the Army, and he called back at my school. And that, of course, was a long ways from Armistice Day, but my brother got home the day my daddy was buried, 1918.
Was that the flu epidemic?
Uh-huh. But he had strokes.
Oh. How bad was the flu around Pryor?
It was pretty bad. A lot of folks died with it.
Did you have the flu?
No.
Okay.
No, I escaped it, but I get it plenty now.
How did you move to Oklahoma?
How?
Yes, ma'am.
To Oklahoma?
Yes, ma'am.
In big wagon.
Oh, in a wagon.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember the trip?
Yeah, I sure do.
Tell me about
I know we had to stay all night over here by Vanita. You know where that is? We stayed all night over there and camped out. We had a couple with us from Holden that was moving their things along with us, see. So that's how we got into Oklahoma. We moved a covered wagon.
Would you tell me what items you packed to bring in the wagon?
Oh, I didn't pack anything.
What'd your mother pack?
Well, our clothing and bedding and stuff like that.
What type of food did you have for the
Food?
trip? Yes, ma'am.
Well, I don't remember. We had plenty of milk, I know. Yeah. Milk wasn't far, I know, but I don't know what we ate.
Where did you sleep on the
Where
trip?
did we sleep?
Yes, ma'am.
Out in Opal.
Did it rain on you?
No.
No?
No, the Lord was good to us that night.
And why did you move to Bartlesville?
Why?
Yes, ma'am.
My sister, 3 years older than I am, came over here and put her application for a school teacher. Put her application in at one of the schools over here, and asking on the school road. And when she told us that, then of course we all, because just we three, Mother and Maud and I, and we all moved over here and lived down in Seminole. And but I remember quite well. We came over here to wait.
In 1926, were you a flapper?
The biggest one in town.
Tell me, what makes a girl a flapper?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
What type
You
of
just
dress?
gotta did it.
Yep.
Well, let's see. We wore middies and skirts and little old dresses that the waist up at the bad end of it and pleated the rest of the way. You remember that? She's old too. No,
Did you
I
bob your
didn't.
hair?
What?
Did you bob your hair?
Oh yeah, I did that for that prior.
Oh.
My mother likes to not let me though, but we was over to my daddy's sister, my aunt's, and I kept a begging for my hair to be cut, and Aunt Shirley wanted it cut, and all my family wanted it cut but Mama. So finally she said, well, there's nothing else you'll do. You go ahead and cut it. So my sister cut it off for me.
Were there many bootleggers in Bartlesville?
What?
Were there many bootleggers in Bartlesville?
I don't remember any. I think there were before we came there.
Mm-hmm.
Because one killed my cousin over there.
He did. What happened?
He was what, sheriff or something, but anyway, he interfered and this guy didn't appreciate it, so he was, well, sorry.
Your cousin was sheriff?
Huh?
Your cousin was sheriff?
Uh-huh. Oh, well, I don't know what his cousin, but he got mad at my cousin.
What did you do for recreation in the 1920s?
Recreation,
in Bartlesville?
Yeah. Go for walks and go to the ice cream parlor and have some ice cream and a bunch of us get together and play games and things like that.
Did you go to dances?
Not till after I came, well, no, not till after I came to Bartlesville. I did after then.
Did you do the Charleston?
I never did learn to do it very good. I do it just a little bit.
You mean you were a flapper and didn't do the Charleston?
What?
You were a flapper and didn't do the Charleston?
Yeah.
What about the movie theaters?
What?
The movie theaters.
Oh yeah, we had one there, but we didn't go very often because we didn't have that money.
How much did the movie cost?
Oh, I think 35 cents or something. You learn about life, did you?
What was the name of that theater?
Allred Theater.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Allred was my teacher when I went out country to school.
Mm-hmm. Did you have an automobile in Bartlesville?
In Bartlesville,
Mhm.
my sister did. I did after my sister died. I had an automobile.
Yeah. When did you see your first automobile?
When did I?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, boys, way back there when we lived on the farm in Brasilla. I don't like to scare our team to death. They took off and upset the wagon.
What did you think of it?
What?
What did you think of that car when you first saw it?
Oh, I guess I thought it was all right. Don't think I ever wanted to ride in one, but they finally got me in one.
What about your first airplane?
Well, I tell you, I was pretty old with my first airplane. Because, what did I go for? And I went to, from Bartlesville to Houston, Texas on the airplane. That was my first. My sister lived down in Smithville, and she was in the hospital in Houston. And I went on the airplane down there.
Yeah. Were there many of those big floods on the Caney River back in the 20s?
Not where we lived. No. Now, after we came, you said Caney, didn't
Yeah.
you? In 1926, when we came to Bartlesville, it was the biggest flood that we had ever seen in Bartlesville. Is that right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Did you
Of course,
come?
We've had several triples since then. They built the dams and all.
Did you attend the Dewey Roundup, the rodeo here
I
in
did
Dewey?
one time.
What did you think of it?
I thought it was all right.
Mhm.
I like to be entertained.
How did the Depression of the 1930s affect you?
Well, of course, we had to have our food stamps and things like that. I didn't care much about them, but there's things like that.
Did you know Frank Phillips?
Sure did.
Tell me about him.
Oh, he was a great man. I forget. Oh, I wish I had. I had a book here of his brothers that told all about their lives. But he did a lot of good for Bartlesville and the surrounding country.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I took Frank.
What type of work did you do in Bartlesville?
In Bartlesville, the first job I ever had in Bartlesville was the H&S Crestus.
What'd you do there?
What?
What'd you do there?
Oh, I was a clerk.
Oh.
I didn't know, I was green. I didn't know anything about it because I came from school over here, see, from Pryor. But,
How long did you work there?
a year.
A year?
Yeah. And
Then what'd you do?
I went down to Tahlequah and went to, my sister was going to school down there. I went down there and went to school down there with my sister.
Oh, there at the.
She was in college.
Did you go to college down there?
No, I didn't. She did.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was trying to finish high school.
Did you finish?
No, never
No.
did.
Mm-hmm.
But I said I got sick and
Yeah.
I just quit.
How did you move from Pryor to Bartlesville?
Well, wagon.
By wagon again?
We had a friend over there that moved us over here.
Mm-hmm. What'd you bring with you?
What?
What'd you bring with you to Bartlesville?
Well, well, just about all we had, I guess. stove and beds and cabinets and icebox and our clothing. All it takes to make up a home.
Did you do any work during World War II?
Yeah, what did I do? I don't remember.
In a drugstore.
You worked in a drugstore?
Well, I worked in a drugstore for 20 years.
Which one?
The Norman Pharmacy in Bartlesville.
Where is that located?
It's not there now. We used to be where, well, we began this store in a little cubby hole by the Union National Bank. And we got so much trade and everything in there that we expanded over in a bigger place by the JCPenney store on Dewey. And I worked there with Lauren for 20 long years.
Do you remember VE Day and VJ Day?
What?
VE Day when Germany surrendered?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Uh,
What about when the Japanese surrendered?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Did you know Mr. Foster?
This who?
Mr. Foster?
I didn't know her personally. I knew her. I knew who she was. But I didn't know her personally.
What about Mr. Artunoff?
I saw him a few times. I knew who he was when I'd seen him, but outside that's all
Could you give me a description of the main street in Bartlesville?
When we came in?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, let's see now. Wait just a minute. It had, let me see. Yeah, it had pavement on either side. Up the middle of the street, we had streetcars, and on either side, of course, was our stores, because we had begun to be alive, you know, in 1926. We had several stores in Bartlesville.
What were the names of those stores?
Of what?
What were the names of the stores?
Other stores?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Anthony's and Cress's and Boston Store and the Economy Store and Carmen Shoe Store. Pennies and Bartlesville Electric. I don't know what.
Since you were a flapper, where did all the girls meet? All the flappers. Where did they go have fun,
I didn't
recreation?
belong to the flapper.
You didn't.
No.
Well, you told me you were a flapper.
I belong to the YGBs, Young Business Girls,
What's that?
from the Y. We had an organization, we'd meet, I think only once a month, and have a meeting, and we'd have entertainment and things like
Did you do any work for the CCC
that. No,
or the WPA?
sure didn't.
Mm-hmm. Oh, where was the, I guess, the roundhouse for the streetcars? Where was the barn where they kept the streetcars?
It's like
Where was the place they kept the streetcars?
the streetcar.
Yeah.
I had, it was way down on the east end of town in, oh gosh, shed or something for 'em. I never went down there, so I don't know, but I do know that's where they were.
Where did those streetcars run? How far?
They run straight through town, out to the mound. Well, we had a big hill out there we called the mound. And as far as I can remember, it run out there and back.
And then how far east?
I don't believe we had them on the side. Side streets here, I don't know.
How far east did the car go?
It was about 8 blocks.
Did it go out to Tuxedo?
No,
No.
it was still there in Bartlesville.
Okay. The Smelders. Tell me about that.
I don't remember too much about the smeller. I just know that it was out there in the south end of Bartlesville. And I don't know too much about them.
When did they tear the old Smelders down?
When?
Yes, ma'am.
Gosh, I don't remember. Ask her.
Do you have any
idea exactly? It's maybe been 20 years.
Do you have any questions?
She was voted most congenial clerk in Oklahoma, in Bartlesville at one time. Most courteous, most congenial. Her sister was Maud Cobalt. Everybody knows her sister. That taught him. She taught more kids than she did.
Yeah. Tell me about your sister.
My sister,
Maud.
Maud,
Mm-hmm.
well, she's 3 years older than I am. She was a school teacher and taught for 30 years, I think it was. And the sweetest person in town.
What'd she teach?
But she teach
Mhm.
all 8 grades at first when she started out. And she went to Copan to teach. And she had the first grade. Give me some water.
You getting tired? Well,
She just getting
Go
over
ahead.
longer.
what kind of mischief did you get into?
I was a good little girl.
Aw.
Yeah, must be.
Must be something you got into.
I don't know. It could be vague. I never did get a bit.
You didn't.
Alright.
Well, I think we have enough for right now. I may come back and talk to you again if I may.
It's alright with me.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, this is October 29th, 1987. My name is Joe Todd, and this is an interview with Violet Opal Clark in Dewey, Oklahoma. Mrs. Clark, where were you born?
In Dewey.
And when's your birthday?
February the 23rd, 1909.
1909. And who is your father?
George Henry Nichols.
And your mother?
Myrtle Alice Bowman Nichols.
B-O-W-M-A-N? And where were your parents from?
They were from Seymour, Missouri.
Why did they come to Oklahoma?
They make their home here.
What type of work did your father do?
He was in the oil business.
Oil business. Is that the reason he came to Oklahoma? Do you recall what type of work he did in the oil fields?
Well, yes, he did.
He was a driller.
And well, that's about all he did.
Do you recall any experiences that he related to you about the oil fields?
No.
Oh.
Colors and just kids.
Yeah. Let me back up and ask, were either one of your grandfathers in the Civil War?
Civil War. They were both in Civil War.
They were.
Mm-hmm. They both. My grandfather, J.W. Nichols, fought in the Union Army. I've heard so many times about him going with Sherman to the sea. That meant he was burning us out. And my grandfather Holden was on the southern side.
Any stories about him?
No,
Any specific stories about that march to the sea that you've heard?
I've heard it many times about Sherman march to the sea, and I went with him because I remember him very faintly when he was growing. But nothing I could tell.
Yeah. Okay. Where did you start the school?
Where?
Yes, ma'am.
At Dewey.
At Dewey, was it the public schools in Dewey?
Yes, public school.
What was the name of the school?
Dewey Public School.
How many students?
I don't know, quite a lot. It was, well, I have no idea.
Do you remember your first teachers?
The first teacher I had was Winona Ross.
Winona Ross. What did she teach?
The Permanent. And she taught the first grade. And she taught, oh no, she didn't. She then promoted me to the second grade. I don't remember who the teacher was.
Did you have McGuffey's reader?
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
What books did you have? Do you remember?
I don't remember, but I remember asking why we didn't have that book. Because that's all you heard about.
Did you ever attend the Dewey Roundup?
Yes.
Tell me about it.
I've been Googled once, and I saw a man gored
What
on one
happened?
of the stairs, and that's all I went.
What year did you graduate from high school?
I didn't graduate. I went to the third year of school, and I got married. And that was the end of it.
I was going to ask, as a small girl, what chores did you do around the house?
I didn't do any except wash dishes. I didn't do anything else but practice the piano.
When you washed dishes, what type of soap did you use?
Lysol.
Lysol?
Later on, that's what we used at first, and then later on we used P&G.
Did your mother make the Lysol?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember how she made it?
Boiled lye, and I don't know whether I should say she boiled the lye soap or not, because that isn't the correct way to make lye soap. But she did boil the lye and the grease together.
Do you remember what type of dresses that you wore to school?
No, I don't remember other than white bloomers. I know I wore them because I got them so dirty when I'd sit on the sidewalk and play jacks.
What other games did you play besides jacks?
Oh, I don't know. I was guy had one jack mine. I like to play jacks.
How many years did you study piano?
I didn't study at all.
You didn't.
No. Except I didn't study the piano. First I started learning, I learned it on the old-fashioned organ. my father thought that I had some talent, and he got me a teacher. And I took from that teacher, Miss Fox, for 1 year. And then she decided I couldn't teach, couldn't get it anymore because I couldn't read. I tried for 1 year and I couldn't read. She said, Mr. Nichols, your daughter will never learn to play the piano. We might as well give up. And then at the same time, she didn't know I was playing tunes that I wanted to play.
You're playing by ear?
Mm-hmm. I'd go to show on Saturday afternoon and play and study and listen to what they had. You know, on the electric piano. And I'd learn it. And when I would get home, I'd write down. I knew where F, G, and so forth was. And I would write that down. And that way I learned to memorize it. That was the only way. Because there wasn't nobody out there who cared anything about playing piano.
You still play?
I would. I don't play now. People ask me to, but I don't feel like I'm doing it justice. And when I hit a bad phrase or a bad note, it makes me feel bad. I'd rather not play. Someday I will play. Someday I intend to play. But it's not what somebody else wants.
Yeah. Besides playing piano in the home, where else have you played?
Oh, I played every. I played New York and played Kansas City and Joplin. Oh, I can't name it all.
Where would you play in these cities?
In these days, I'm lucky you can get a job. I'd play in nightclubs.
Oh, you played nightclubs.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about playing the nightclubs in New York. What was the name of the clubs?
Well, it's on I don't remember that place other than it was East 52nd Street. That's where all the musicians went for work. I think it was Archie. I don't remember the name of the club.
Do you remember what the inside of the club looked like?
Looked just like any other nightclub.
I mean, what? Did it have a bar, tables,
Yes,
chairs?
had a bar and had I didn't mean you had to drink. And then you went to the waiter carried the drinks to the table.
What did the bar look like?
Well, I don't know. I never paid no attention to it.
What type of piano did you have to play there?
I don't know. It was they had the front off of it, but they didn't have microphones and those things.
Did you sing also?
No.
No. Who are some of the musicians that came in that club?
Oh, Kansas Fields and musicians went to where they could play with other musicians. And I was lucky. The good musicians always like to come in there. And I got to play with good musicians. In those days, black did not mix with white. But they did in that club. And, I met some wonderful people.
Did you meet Scott Joplin?
No. That was, he didn't, before his time. No, he was before me.
Yeah, okay. Who are some of you remember some of the musicians you played with?
No, other than Chew Berry. If you get to play with Chew Berry, you really done something. He come in and
What did he play?
tenor, and it's been so long ago. I hadn't thought of that so many years. Should remember all those fine people that come in and would reach over and give me a pat of encouragement.
Did you play Chicago?
Yeah.
You played at the World's Fair?
No. Mm-mm.
What were the clubs in Chicago that you played?
Well, I played the Beehive. That was I played the Louvre. That was a great big supper club. And I played, I don't remember the club. I played on North Clark Street.
What years were you playing there?
I don't remember the years.
Do you remember any of the music you were playing? The songs?
No, I don't. I wish I could remember that. Because it'll come back, music will turn around and come
Yeah.
back.
Was it back in the 20s, 30s?
So early, late 20s.
Did they have, in Chicago and New York, they had what they call a speakeasy?
Well, I played in them. I just got through telling about them. Only we didn't call it that. We just say the joint or something like that.
Why is it called a speakeasy?
I don't know. I never did know. I don't know if anybody ever run one that ever called it that.
Were they private clubs or
No.
they were open then?
Mm-hmm.
What did Prohibition do to those clubs?
Knocked the socks off me.
What did they do with all the beer and whiskey?
Poured it out. It was awful too. There's money going down the drain.
They'd pour all of it out?
Well, of course they had to save a little bit.
Mm-hmm. What did they do during Prohibition then? What did they serve?
They served beer and whiskey. Only it wasn't supposed to be beer and whiskey. Something else. We said, oh, I won't say what it said.
Hmm?
I won't say what she held up the cup. Said grandma.
They served it in a coffee cup?
What she said. I always saw it served in drinks.
Mm-hmm. Did the police ever raid those clubs?
Why, of course they did.
Tell me about a police raid.
Well, there ain't anything to tell. They just raid and go on.
And what would they do? Would they arrest people or what?
Well, they'd kind of arrest them.
Kind of.
Yeah. They'd, remember, that's been a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really remember what they did.
Did the police ever bother you?
No, they didn't really bother me.
So the piano player wasn't bothered?
No, I was drinking. I never did drink.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to drink.
That's true. Mm-hmm. Did you ever play in Oklahoma during those years?
Yes, or
Where?
Seminole. I played what they call dance hall. No, it was called 49 Dance Hall. 49 Dance Hall.
Was that during the oil boom days?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about Seminole in those years.
Ooh-wee. Rent was out of sight. And you was lucky if you had a place to stay, but I was pretty lucky. I stayed with the member of the band, which was 4 pieces. He and I stayed with his cousin, and we got some, you had a place to eat and a place to sleep.
I heard there a lot of people lived in tents
There
in
was.
Seminole.
There was.
I also heard there's a section of town called Hell's Half Acre.
Well, I don't think that was same thing that we would be talking about. I mean, different things, but it's the same thing. Down Hell's Half Acre, man didn't dare go down there.
Why? What was bad about Hell's Half Acre?
Well, the women was frightful. And
Frightful women?
it was bad.
Oh,
And
you mean they had those places?
they had those places, believe me. And I don't know if a man wanted to keep his pants and shirt and billfold, why he didn't go. It is statute.
I heard there were also killings there
There was.
in Seminole.
There was.
What type of people were the ones that lived in Seminole? You know, just the oil workers in general.
Well, the ordinary family man brought his family there. See, that didn't last very long. They cleaned that up.
They did.
Mhm.
How'd they clean it up?
I don't know.
Would you describe the 49 Club that you played in Seminole?
Well, it, like some of the rest of them, it had place for the, it's built about halfway up with screen wire. No, the screen wire come on top. One of those type of things. And it was outdoors.
How large was it?
It's pretty good size. That size of an ordinary dance hall.
What? A couple hundred feet?
Well, I don't know how long, how to,
Did they serve beer and whiskey there too?
well, wasn't supposed to, but I rather suspect they did. Well, how are you going to make any money?
What did you do for recreation in Seminole?
I didn't have any recreation except reading. I don't even remember what I read, but it's something to kill time. Till I went on a job.
What were your hours there?
7:30 to 2. And we never stopped playing. And one night they boys called up a tune. I don't remember what the tune was, but I didn't know it. And Rubber was an old guy. And he leaned over and said, little girl, if you want to stay in the band business, you better learn that tune. So I learned a tune, and I don't remember what it was, though. It was just an ordinary tune, but evidently it's very popular.
You say there were 4 band members. There's piano,
Saxophone,
saxophone,
drums,
drums.
and so there was something else because there were 4. I can't remember what that 4th one was.
The bass fiddle.
Have you seen that picture?
Here's your supper. Oh dear. I'm sorry, Joe.
Oh, that's Oh,
Plus
yeah.
into that.
Yeah. Was it a bass fiddle, you say?
Well, sometime or other, I played bass fiddle. I played with the bass fiddle, but I can't remember on that particular job
Yeah.
what I played.
Do you have a photograph of that band?
Yes.
You do.
Mm-hmm.
You have a photograph here?
No, it's at my home. It's a picture took. It's about this big.
Yeah. One of these days I'd like to see it.
All right. After I get home.
And also, would like to get a copy for the museum if we could.
Well, you can have a copy if you want to.
Yeah. Okay.
I belong to Oklahoma Historical Society.
Well, that's who I work for.
Oh.
Let me see. Well, any specific incidents in Seminole that you can remember?
No. I remember a lot of them, but I'm not going to tell it.
Oh, go ahead.
No. Not for publication or any. For the good of the cause, or
Were they that bad?
they was pretty bad.
Probably all gone by now.
Hmm?
Awful people are probably all gone by
I
now.
know they are, but they got errors.
You're
Oh,
a lady.
just
You're a
don't
lady
mention
about it.
names.
I'd rather not.
Oh,
You say what you want to, and I'll say whether it's right or wrong.
oh, okay. Well, I don't even know what to say about that. Ever have any trouble in there in the 49 Club? Did fights break out?
No. To be frank, they didn't. The bouncers were too big. And the person didn't start anything and couldn't finish.
Who were the bouncers?
I don't know what their names were.
What were the names of the other band members?
Lester Miller.
Lester Miller?
Mm-hmm. He played tenor. Banjo. And I don't remember that name, that fellow's name on. I don't remember that fellow's name on drum.
Yeah.
And me on piano. I couldn't have been very young, very old.
Who are some of the notorious people in Seminole?
I don't know. I never met up with any of them.
You don't want to tell me any incidents that happened?
Mm-mm.
Oh, just one.
I don't know of anybody. Oh, one night, Lester and I went to work, and we got there a little early. Wasn't anybody around, and there's two guys outside. And we just parked outside and watched them for, just for something to do. And they started arguing. They argued a while, and then they shot. One hit another one, and he fell down, and he got up, and he hit his head with a post hole digger that he was taking the place of the post hole.
Why did they get into a fight, or do you know?
I don't know. We got out of there quick. We didn't watch it. We was late to work. I was having a fit.
What else happened? Tell me one more thing.
No, that's all I know.
Oh, you must know something else.
Oh, I don't know. And the man getting his head bashed in with a post hole deer in this?
Well, yeah, but I want something else too.
Well, I don't know anything else.
Well, may I come back and talk to you some other time?
Yes?
Okay. Thank you.
That's my brother out in the hall.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
I told him to wait. Who's waiting?
Yeah.